My fellow Nepalese, imagine for a moment the eternal snows of Everest, the sacred rivers that carve our valleys like veins of the earth, the terraced fields where our ancestors wrested life from stone. This is Nepal, not a footnote in the ledgers of distant corporations, not a pawn in the games of corrupt elites, but a living testament to human resilience, a nation forged in the fire of revolution and a quiet heroism of everyday toil. Yet today, we stand at a precipice, our youth fleeing to foreign shores, our rivers choked with the detritus of neglect, our dreams deferred by a system that serves the few while the many hunger for justice, health, and hope. But hear me now, this is not our end. This is our awakening. From the ashes of the old order, we rise to build a new Nepal. Not imposed from above by edicts or foreign blueprints, but birthed from the sweat and ingenuity of our own people. A society rebuilt from scratch, brick by sovereign brick, harnessing the untapped might of our private industries. The very engines of creation already humming in our midst. This blueprint is no mere plan. It is a covenant with our future, a path of radical renewal that honors the sacred bond between humanity and our land. We begin not with empty promises, but with what we already possess, a constellation of private factories and enterprises, born of Nepali grit that stand ready to fuel our rebirth. Picture them as the vertebrae of our new spine, cement kilns firing the foundations of resilient homes, steel forges tempering the infrastructure of opportunity, quarries yielding sand and aggregate to raise cities that touch the clouds without scarring the earth. Our hydropower giants, those roaring turbines along the roaring Trishuli and Karnali, will not just light our nights, but power a green revolution, channeling clean energy to every remote village, inspiring workshops, cities, cables and transformers woven from our own wires and coils will knit a national grid unbreakable by storm or sabotage. And yes, our automotive pioneers, those assembly lines crafting vehicles for our rugged roads, will roll out fleets that carry not just goods, but generations towards self-reliance. But we will go further, weaving in the full tapestry of our industrial heritage. From the fertile plains of the Terai, our farming collectives and agribusinesses, rice paddies, tea estates, and vegetable greenhouses will feed a nation nourished by organic abundance, free from the poisons of chemical tyranny. Software developers in Kathmandu's buzzing hubs, alongside the surging IT sector with its apps and algorithms, will code the digital backbone of e-governance and telemedicine, connecting our healers to the hills and our entrepreneurs to the world. Tourism's lodges and treks, that timeless draw of adventure seekers, will evolve into eco-sanctuaries, sustaining communities while preserving the wild heart of Chitwan and the Annapurnas. Textiles and garments spun in the looms of Biratnagar will clothe the globe in ethical fashion, while food processing plants in cities like Pokhara transform our millets and herbs into exports that tell our story of flavor and fortitude. Financial services, those nimble banks and fintech innovators, will democratize capital, lending not to cronies but to the dreamers, the woman-led cooperatives and the youth startups in light manufacturing, from plastics to pharma. And let us not forget the emerging sparks, broadband networks threading our valleys with knowledge, conglomerates, pioneering sustainable ventures, and a burgeoning services economy that turns our hospitality into a force for cultural diplomacy. In this new Nepal, we build from scratch, not by erasing the past, but by liberating its potential. No more will foreign debt chains bind our hands. Instead, we invest in soil health to combat the climate's cruel hand, in education that teaches not rote obedience, but creative sovereignty, in healthcare that heals the body and spirit without big pharma's grip. Our factories will hum not for profit's cold altar, but for the common good, worker-owned cooperatives deciding their fates, environmental safeguards etched into every contract, profits plowed back into schools and clean water systems. This is the path, phased and fierce, starting with infrastructure hubs, scaling to innovation corridors in the capital, all guided by the people's voice through town halls and digital forums. It is a revolution of regeneration, where the Gorkha's courage meets the farmer's wisdom, the engineer's precision, the poet's vision. Nepalis, the hour is upon us. The old Nepal was a cage. The new Nepal is a compass. Let us seize it not with anger, but with the unyielding fire of those who know that true power lies in our unity, our land, our labor. Together, we will erect a society for every child breathes free air, every elder rests in dignity, and every mountain echoes with the laughter of people unbound. This blueprint is our map. Let us now march. For Nepal, for us, for the world is watching in awe. Jai Nepal. In the shadow of our ancient Himalayas, where the wind whispers tales of endurance and the soil bears the footprints of generations who toiled without reward, we begin our sacred journey. This blueprint is not just a plan for bricks and mortar. It is a declaration of war on despair, a vow to lift our youth from the chains of homelessness and hand them the keys to their destiny. Here, in the heart of our rebirth, we harness the raw power of our land and labor to build affordable housing, not as charity, but as justice long overdue. Government land, that vast inheritance of the people, shall be leased for 90 years, a covenant of trust that binds the state to its sons and daughters. And through this Youth Empowerment Fund, the government steps forward with the initial 20% down payment, a bold investment in the fire of young dreams extended to every youth without a house in their name. This is no handout. It is seed money for a harvest of self-reliance, where the prefabricated homes rise swiftly from our own resources. Cement forged in our kilns, steel bent by our hands, made in our factories, aggregate and sand quarried from our rivers, cables and pipes drawn from our factories. And where gaps exist, we summon new industries into being, factories sprouting like bamboo after the monsoon, ensuring every nail, every beam, every wire pulses with Nepali ingenuity. Picture it. These homes, efficient and enduring, financed with vision and vigor. The government's 20% ignites the spark. The lease and house itself standing as interest-yielding collateral on the bank's balance sheets, a shield against doubt, a guarantee of stability. Then, the banks advance the remaining 80%, a loan repaid over 20 years by the youth themselves. Not through drudgery, but through jobs we create in tandem, in sectors blooming anew, construction crews raising the walls, farms yielding sustenance, software coders wiring the future, hydropower crews harnessing the roar of our waters. Youth, each youth, housed, becomes a worker empowered. Their labor repaying the debt while fueling the economy's engine. This is the alchemy of progress, turning idle land into living communities, despair into determination, where families gather under roofs they own in spirit, if not eternally, and children play in yards free from spectre of eviction. But let us delve deeper, for this asset creation is no mere shelter. It is the forge of economic liberation, empowering our Nepali banks to breathe life into more money than ever before, multiplying wealth. In the grand design of our financial system, governed by the wide stewardship of the Nepali Rashtra Bank, banks operate under a cash reserve ratio of 4%, a sentinel ensuring stability while unleashing potential. This means for every rupee deposited, banks must hold back only 4 paisa in reserves, lending out the rest to spark new ventures, new dreams. It is the miracle of fractional reserve banking. When the government injects that vital 20% down payment through the Youth Empowerment Fund that I talk of, it enters the system as fresh deposits, an infusion of base money that cascades through the economy. The money multiplier, that invisible, gorgeous force of creation, stands at 25, meaning for every rupee the government invests, the banking system can generate up to 25 rupees in total money supply through successive rounds of lending and redepositing. So how much more can be created? Therein lies the thunderclap of possibility. Beyond the initial investment, banks can conjure an additional 24 rupees for every one committed by the state. Thus, if the government empowers a youth with 6 lakh rupees as down payment on a modest home, the ripple could birth out 14,400,000 rupees more in circulating capital, loans for new factories, credits for farmers, funds for innovators, all secured by tangible assets we will be building, the homes that stand as collateral of ironclad value. With risk weights for residential mortgages set at 60% by Nepal Rashtra Bank, these loans carry lower peril, allowing banks to extend their reach further, their balance sheets fortified by real, enduring wealth. No longer will our banks cower behind scarcity. This program floods them with secure assets, enabling them to create money not as reckless speculation, but as a tide lifting all boats from Terai's fields to the high valleys of Mustan. Nepalis, this chapter is our cornerstone, where housing becomes the bedrock of equality, jobs that ladder to prosperity, and asset creation the key to unlocking boundless economic vitality. We build not for the elite in their marble towers, but for the forgotten, the striving, the young whose eyes burn with the promise of tomorrow. Let the hammers ring out, the factories roar, the banks flourish, for in this new Nepal, every home erected is a victory over poverty. Every loan repaid is a step towards sovereignty. Together, we must reclaim our birthright. From the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas to the fertile plains of the Terai, our land pulses with courage of those who have carved lives from stone and soil. Today, we turn to the heart of our revolution, jobs, not as scraps from distant powers, but as the birthright of every Nepali, forged in the fire of honest work and shared dreams. Our stand against despair, against exodus of our youth to foreign lands, against a system that has too long ignored the hands that could shape our future. With affordable housing as our cornerstone, we build not just homes but a tidal wave of opportunity, igniting the potential of 9.1 million Nepalis aged from 18 to 40. Our nation's lifeblood, 9,108,000 strong, ready to claim their new place in a new Nepal. Picture it, 9.1 million homes, each a 600 square foot haven, stacked in sturdy 4-story clusters where families thrive and communities bloom. At 30 lakhs per home built with our cement, steel, sand, cables, the total cost is going to be about 27.32 trillion rupees, a bold investment dwarfed only by the cost of inaction. The government's Youth Empowerment Fund covers 20% or 5.46 trillion rupees. Sparking this movement, banks fund the remaining 80%, 21.86 trillion in loans, secured by homes themselves. From this foundation, jobs flow like rivers after the rain. Not temporary tasks, but lasting roles in construction, factories, farms, tech, and more, tying every Nepali to the promise of progress. At the heart of this effort is the prefabrication machine. One machine, 10 laborers and one engineer crafting one home per day. To build 9.1 million homes in a decade, we need 2,495 machines, each a hub of hope from Limpiadura to Ilam. This creates 27,449 direct jobs, 24,950 laborers wielding tools with pride, 2,495 engineers guiding with precision. But this is just the start. Every home sparks a chain of work, 50,000 factory workers forging steel, mixing cement. 30,000 quarry workers will be needed to harvest sand and aggregate with care from our rivers. We would need 20,000 assembling pipes and cables, 15,000 in new factories making fixtures, ensuring every nail is Nepali made. The ripple grows wider. Banks handling 9.1 million loans will need 45,000 workers, 25,000 as loan officers helping families, 15,000 support staff answering questions, 5,000 analysts keeping the system fair, lawyers 5,000 strong drafting leases and protecting rights. We would need 15,000 data collectors to track progress with tablets in hand, 3,000 writers crafting stories to guide and inspire, mechanics, about 8,000 in number, to keep trucks moving, hauling materials across our rugged roads. Musicians, we would need 2,000 of these rappers and rock and rollers to lift spirits across the country. Textile workers, 12,000 weavers producing uniforms from our cotton, 7,000 paper mill workers to create blueprints and posters, 10,000 doctors and nurses to heal injuries at sites, 6,000 inspectors to ensure every home stands strong, 18,000 cooks to feed workers with dal and rice from our farms, and 4,000 journalists to report the truth from city papers to village blogs. We will go further. 5,000 would be needed in cigarettes and alcohol factories just to meet workers' needs with moderation. 4,000 environmentalists to guard our land. 12,000 teachers train new skills. 8,000 tech workers building apps for loans and logistics. 15,000 transporters to keep supplies flowing. 6,000 recyclers turn scraps into resources. 7,000 organizers rallying communities. 3,000 artisans craft tiles with cultural pride. 10,000 electricians and plumbers to wire and plumb homes. 5,000 security guards to protect sites. 9,000 childcare workers to support working parents. 5,000 accountants to track every rupee. In total, we spark about 500,000 direct jobs, growing to 2 million as effects cascade, touching every Nepali, every village, every dream. Each worker earning about 30,000 monthly, a fair wage to live, save and dream. Their debt 24 lakhs per home, which is repaid over 20 years at 10,000 rupees a month. Together, 9.1 million workers repay 43.72 trillion rupees, covering the 21.86 trillion loan and fueling new loans for farms, startups, and schools. Banks, strengthened by these secure homes, lend boldly, multiplying money through our fractional reserve system, where every rupee invested grows 25-fold, turning 5.46 trillion into well over 130 trillion in economic energy. This is our path, Nepalis. Homes creating jobs, jobs erasing debt, debt unlocking wealth. We reject systems that favor the few. We build a Nepal where every hand finds promise, whether forging steel, coding apps, cooking meals, or singing songs of unity. From 27,000 builders to millions in factories, fields, and offices, this is the movement for all. Let the machines hum, the wages rise, the homes stand tall. We are not just housing our youth, we are forging a nation where every Nepali thrives. Onward with hearts ablaze, I hope you will stand with me come March 2026. Aditya Mudbhary. Remember the name.